Hello everyone, I'm back again with the new videos. I'm Veronique. I'm back to Scop International YouTube channel. This time I'm making a summary based on the following subject, which was focused on the thesis that arise on the Ministry of Defense in the UK. I undertake to write about three theses on the Ministry of Defense of the UK. The first was focused on the additive manufacturing technology. This technology has the capability to create project internal in-house organizations. The equipment, the materials, the components has the capability to produce final produce, solid produce that can be used internally. It made the supply chains to be very optimized. The supply chains to be very optimized when you're undertaking to do this sort of the supply chains. The use of additive manufacturing. Why did I choose to do a dissertations on additive manufacturing? Early on, I was talking about the brand of African brand, and I was discussing about the different type of things in the textile area. Additive manufacturing 3D print as using because it make textile organizations to really be focused on really be responding very quicker to the markets because the in-house productions actually reducing the cost of the supply chains, especially in the industry of fashion industry. It require a lot of process to make the supply chain themselves. There's a lot of activity process to make that doesn't need to be there at all. In to do that, to decrease that, this more process mapping have the capability to reduce the step. You can have different process of the step, which is say first one, second, third, through all the chain of the supply chains. You can defining that how it's made. You can take a while, the sum of the step of the supply chain take an eternity sort of to making the final project to the end destination, especially when we're talking to starting from the positions into a country outsourcing to another country. We're talking about the transportation, the distribution, the collaboration, the supplier, retailer, everything, even the reparations, everything. It's just completely into the supply chain. This is we're talking about the traditional supply chain itself. When as a traditional supply chain requires such a long time, long process to establish the supply chain, it's impacting the supply chain lead time. That's why any organizations must understand the traditional supply chains to control their own supply chain. Now, with the use of 3D print additive manufacturing, why did I choose the military? I chose the military because in the world of the military, logistics come from military. Logistic time is in terms of point to point response to just in time to the cost to the productions to the end the customers. Choose the right material, right cost, right time at the right moment, right positions, using the right mode of transportations and understanding everything. This is how we're talking about logistics. This is the main thing of logistics. Now, in terms with the supply chain itself, as I said earlier, only all the length time of the supply chain itself, it requires a lot of lead time to respond to the need of the supply chains of the end of the customer. So 3D print has the capability to produce everything into another organizations. Components are mainly powder, liquid, and this equipment have the machine, the equipment of the 3D print, and we've made the additive manufacturing video so that you can see what it's like additive manufacturing. Additive manufacturing material equipment can be used to any kind of industry, even for a textile, for shoes, for clothes, for engineering, for car, for automotive, for what else? Even into the store, for electronic, phone, car, housing. It's doing everything. 3D print do everything. It touch every organization. So in this case, the 3D print has into the house in house. Just use a component using to process everything. To make this distinction with the Ministry of Defense, it has been requiring me to understanding the standards based on the request from the modes into the UK. The request was really focused on the international organizations standard, understanding the standardizations of every kind of component based on the subjects I found out that in any country, any organizations has their own standard according to the country and according to it. There's organizations who made in things to be consolidate the information. ISO standard has the capability to combine those those people, those country, those organizations to have a set one law, one notice, one everything to make everything to be stored and to make the market much more easier. Such as we have an example of Africa, European market. We can see how many countries they are in European. This is the 28 now it's 27 because but this 28 is a one law for everyone. So it's the same with ISO standard. The ISO standard is very required to set it the same law for everyone so that it's making the market easier in terms of dispatch, in terms of component they use, in terms of everything. So it's actually breaking the barrier because additive manufacture has the power to produce every kind of component. It can be a very small component or it can be a very large component. So when the time the technology is developed, it's actually impacting the supply chain because everything is they don't need anything regarding the manufacturing process. It's actually eliminate any kind of manufacturing process by having this equipment into another house, into another organizations to make every process at home and quicker. For example, if you want to produce a material, you can undertake through the traditional supply chain, you can undertake a lot of month for just the productions of materials. That's why in traditional supply chain, they ask the inventory process, as I've been explaining to CICAM, CICAM thesis. I've been explaining the process of decay points, buffer, inventory, forecasting. Those informations are actually extracted and shared to the other stakeholders so that they can control their own manufacturing. So they can control the inventory process. With 3D print, we also need to optimize the components. We also need to understand the inventory, but it's really less because they have the capability to produce the same day the goods. But in the manufacturing process, it took a while to make everything to set it. That's why additive manufacturing is a feature, is an agile manufacturing, is an agile technology who can impact in the supply chains. But it must considering that the traditional supply chains must be controlled. Any kind of organization must understand first of all their supply chains, control what is the need of their organizations, what is the need of the market that they want to choose, where they want to go, what are they want to outsourcing. Are you a business who want to be in-house, at home, only into your country, or are you an organization who wish also to touch in international markets? By understanding this, you can process your own supply chains. By doing your own supply chains, you can also decide what kind of synergy as a centralization to software or decentralized software that can be used to all your organizations so that you can decide how you can process it. Depends the different software that your organization use. Into it, we talk about informatic system through the supply chains. And the informatic system is including additive manufacturing. So it's this kind of a component that is a very strong component that impacts the supply chains. So organizations must understand the supply chains. Through the research of more, it's been found out that through the research of the literature review from the three different dissertations that has been writing, it's really demonstrate that the more the need to understand the different organizations to strengthen their own supply chains, traditional supply chains, and also accommodate the standard. That's how it can be done. So this is a summary of something that I've been talking about, and uh, any questions? The Ministry of Defense has wanted to control the supply chains to make this easier, and in terms of there is a need of process of understanding the supply chains, traditional understanding the technology because 3D print it is not everyone who can use 3D print, especially if you're going deeper regarding the project that you wanted to commercial. There are some already in the market that you can have on your own and create your own good at home. But if we're talking about specific good, it requires engineering to speak the language, it requires knowledge, it requires knowing how to do the know and the be. They require all these things: the numerically, engineering, agglomeric, artificial intelligence, and rich on. It's all included in one thing. As we call in machine learning, is including into as well additive manufacture. So all this process require most of them to understand the technology itself, because the technology require mathematical models, which is a robotic, which is in the artificial intelligence. But we're talking here about 3D print, because 3D print is allocated to those technologies. So this is the kind of things that have been studied through the literature review. Now, based on those three dissertation, the two dissertation was really focused on the survey questions. The survey questions is really important, and when we're talking about the Ministry of Defense, in terms of methodology, it's requiring time. It requires approbations, approbations and time, and approbation from the military and approbation from the university. Because you need to understand the standard of the university, and you need to understand the standard of the Ministry of Defense. And this is the challenge that I had when I collect the data I made. I remember call Mike Porter to receive, to have to at least have a communication site, like started to write this thesis. I had a lucky because Mike Porter, the general in the Ministry of Defense in the UK, responds and say that the Ministry of Defense really are in demand for some subjects to be made. So he sent a list of informations, and he add artificial intelligence, machine learning, 3D print. The 3D print is a technology that it was a new technology. It's so interesting that through the program we just say this 3D print, never talking about the technology itself. Artificial intelligence, I've been writing about artificial intelligence to the dissertation of Coca-Cola. So for me, doing on the artificial intelligence is already done. So I just suppose, let's do additive manufacturing. Through the research, I found that additive manufacturing has the need of artificial intelligence based on the mathematical models. So in this case, with more, I have to write a letter to Mode. I have to have the approbation for the business school from my school, from the director, which has been approved. Then asked to write a proposal to the ministry. Ministry asked me to write the proposal so that it can be convinced the group of the Ministry of UK. And after this information that I collect from them, I send the proposal as approved, and then they invite me to the cousin in Bristol. So I had to get physically to Ministry of Defense in the UK to discuss about this topic. But again, as we talk about government, it's mean security, it's mean time, and it's mean understanding. So even when I went there, I will say that I was not much much preparing about it. As we talk in the minutes, they are very stuck in some that has a background of supply chain and a background of yes, and you just reach a way of, you go straight away to the defense, and you find out that they are meeting people who want to bring solutions to what they are actually living. It's something that live, because military go to operations. So when they ask to write a dissertation based on the subject, it means this is going to be used for the operations in defense. They're gonna use that to establish when they are in the operation, either in the supply chain itself, and proving themselves. So it was a serious meeting I ever have in my life. So I went there twice. First one was with Mike, and Mike was focused on the artificial intelligence, and the other one was focused on the additive manufacture. So I was hard to talk about the different things and approving the different consent form, and discuss about the aim and the objective and the proposal that I've been writing. But then it was a bit complex, you see. Then after that meeting, I just end up found myself another meeting where organizations was invited to a helicopter. So we went there, and I went there too. Many organizations was there. The military really was making presentations based on the military side. like really show you how the operation is made in the military. So after you understand why they need a very strong additive manufacturing process and understand the supply chains. By the time that I saw that, I said, this is not a joke. This is not a joke that I was writing. This is something that they're going to use really for the supply chains. So this is either when after that, when I got this is the way where I made all of them. Then I have the advice from there. They say, as you want to do that, you have to find a way to collect your data. Because the time to collect the data, I was like asking if it's possible to share some information like document and so on, so I can use such just the document. But then I have from my school, my tutor say basically say you can't do that like that. As you speak about additive manufacture, you can't do like that. You need to have a survey question based on that. So I created several questions. So we also need to understand that when you are in academic a university, you need to use reference book, which is very strongly give you a roadmap to write questions based on that. So I write my survey questions, and then I went to this event because the event is also implementation an event conference that I went to it to collect data, make the survey questions with so many businesses, and the mode online survey questions. So I sent there, they say your survey question is too long. And especially for mode, there are some specifically questions regarding the supply chain that you've been asking that they cannot answer. Because they don't have such some of them don't have the skill on the supply chains. They were very specific in an engineering, into the additive manufacture, artificial intelligence. So it was mainly that in terms of the deep supply chain, because I was talking about the supply chains area, operation area, social material, scheduling times, production side, the production level, the type of, I had so many questions regarding the work in progress, the batch, and so on. So they just say I was really asking questions regarding the supply chain area, and then some of it based on the standard that they have been asking for, but then they could not provide so much information from the first one that I write. So there's a couple of them who answer the questions. So the second, because I have to read another several questions according to that, and then I reduced the level of the several question. I had 8 people answer the question. 8 military answer the question. It's really to say that writing the thesis require to keep listening your tutor, and keep reading and keep listening and understand what the organizations, what the Ministry of Defense or any organization requests you for. As I said earlier, with the supply chain of African continent, as I said before, the data that I collect, I didn't even look at when I collected them. Because before even collect the data, I was already writing the literature review. And then the data came. When the data came, it's after that I have to write the discussions. It made the subject very important because there are some of us, we got the collection of data and we write our literature review based on the data. That's not how it is. It's very narrow road. So it's first of all understanding the subject himself, understanding the total framework, everything's based on one subject. If you speak about supply chain, you just speak about supply chains. And in the supply chain, there's different areas in the supply chain that you can talk to. There are some of them they talk in the supply chain based on only on supply. That's all. Supply selection, supply process, supply the reliability. You can write so many things about supplier. You can write so many things about productions. You can write so many things about customer. You can sometimes just base on one thing for many subjects, many paragraphs in one thing. And then when you collect those data, you can actually use those data to strain the point. So that's how is the dissertation that I made for the Ministry of Defense. Either it was not much, I was not doing well, but what I know from the feedback from the examiner and internal examiner, there are some external just say that the subject is actually acceptable. It has been approved, 50% has been given to. All of them say that this subject is actually a subject that is very interesting, that never been used. So as never been studied so deep like that. they say this is subject to be considered. So this is a subject to not just give up, to just say no, we're not doing that. This technology, according to this situation, if you look according to this COVID-19 that's been affecting us, has been affecting the supply chains. It's like the movement of handling material, the movement of equipment, the movement of communication, movement of meeting the need of the market doesn't meet anymore as quick a speed as that's been put into the place in the first place. Before the pandemic arrived, they just managed this supply chain. Now that the pandemic has been destroyed, like been there for like 2 years, like 2 years, we now see how the supply chain is very, very important. If you're strong in your supply chain in the first place, even if you choose having the additive manufacturing, you can actually control your supply chains. Especially when we're talking about when you look on the news, they say that the following things like, oh yeah, we need this particular material, we do not have enough stock. We have in the UK, I remember in the UK when the pandemic started, there are some of people go to the store and just buy everything. They take everything from the store, they don't leave anything to the store. So if you have additive manufacturing, 3D print, you can actually produce those material internal your organizations and always have the good on it. By the time the surgeon was really talking about the standard, which is something that we make government talking about it and set it through it. But first of all, organization, when they understand the supply chains, it's easy to make it. And also, if you want the predictable inventory, predictable informations, I've been talking to one of the station, which is Coca-Cola. Artificial intelligence is actually demonstrating the mathematical model that I can anticipate the forecasting for a future, and can be used to additive manufacturing. So thank you very much for your listening for